That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Wuthering Heights, the third film directed by Emerald Fennell, which Warner Brothers is releasing February 13th, 2026.
What are this director's two previous films?
Promising Young Woman and Saltburn.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we have reviews for those.
What is Wuthering Heights about? A passionate and tumultuous love story set against the backdrop of the Yorkshire moors, exploring the intense and destructive relationship between Heathcliff and Catherine Earnshaw. What is your pull quote?
Emerald Fennell's lusty take on Emily Bronte's classic novel feels all dressed up with nowhere to go, a sumptuous visual feast speckled with camp elements and superficial passions, which align her version with the same myopic parameters of previous ones.
Mine. A pared-down Wuthering Heights that delivers enough campy drama and tragic passion to warm this cold heart. I like this movie much more than you did.
I was shocked that you liked this movie.
I was fully in tears at the end.
I did not hate it, but I also did not care for it. I'm also annoyed at the early praise that it's received that seems very hyperbolic to me. However, I've seen many adaptations of this novel, of which there are many. And while I hold no certain allegiance towards Emily or her sisters, I do feel like I don't understand what Fennell is doing other than being kind of anachronistic and making some questionable choices.
I read this novel 30 years ago. I didn't remember a thing. But tragic love stories really appeal to me, and I find them more romantic than your standard love story. So I think that already sent me. I also think the supporting cast in this movie deserve all the credit.
But also I found the tone jarring because I think the supporting cast's performances are what make this campy.
Well, I mean, I did say it's a campy drama, which I do enjoy. I like the tone shifts. It felt lively. This is a 2+ hour movie, and I wasn't having a difficult time getting through it.
It is lively. It is overtly sexual, which I do appreciate for, my recollection of having read the novel years ago and what I believe so many generations of people are attracted to is kind of how fierce it is. Heathcliff is this kind of feral, overpowering person, and Cathy is this vindictive, yet, immature but sweet woman who they're stuck together on these moors where there's nothing else going on. The scene is set. It's very tragic and interesting. However, most film versions and miniseries versions kind of tend to leave out the second half of the book, which is the second generation that follows and the intergenerational trauma. But Fennell does the same thing. So I guess I just don't understand why she wanted to make this film, especially because Andrea Arnold, I thought, did an exquisite version back in 2011 with this Robbie Ryan cinematography that is a character unto itself.
Well, I'm not familiar with that one. I did really like Margot Robbie in this role. I know you didn't.
It's not that I don't like her, it's just that I feel she seems too old. Catherine is an 18, 19-year-old. When you have Merle Oberon or Juliette Binoche playing her, they're in their mid to late 20s. I think that Robbie seems much older than both Chau and Jacob Elordi, who, and we'll get into the relationship between those three characters. I mean, we meet them all as young somethings, and then as adults, they seem vastly different in age and maturity.
I thought Chau looked older than Margot Robbie. Definitely Jacob Elordi looks the youngest.
Yes, and it's not by much. I think he's like 7 years younger, and not that I'm a stickler for that, but Catherine is this character. There's a line in the script that Fennell gives about, I think it's Martin Clunes' father, saying that my daughter's reached spinster age, even though, Margot Robbie is, of course, gorgeous. But back in this period, a 35-year-old, that would be something you'd say. But then I think what makes Cathy forgivable, because she's a manipulative person, she's a gaslighter in the book and across the screen versions, is that she is also innocent. She was taught that way. She was taught the ways of the colonizer.
This portrayal of Cathy seems softer than what I think you're saying is in the book, which I think is what drew me to her, because I feel like this is a story about regret.
And revenge.
Revenge, but I think it felt very real to me. I think I like more gritty love stories because that is what I think real life is like. And we make mistakes and we're in pain and we want to hurt other people.
No, I agree with all those. And there are, again, this is not a fail per se, and all those elements are there. But to me, I walked away with a resounding feeling that this felt like Emily Brontë's Cruel Intentions.
I mean, I kind of like that.
Again, beautiful gowns that make no sense for the period. And then it's pared down in such a way that we really are only in the two houses, the Heights and the Grange.
Okay, I will say it feels a little too pared down because there are no other characters besides the leads and their staff.
Yes.
And the staff is minimal. We'll get to it, but yes, I agree that at times I thought, oh, there are no social events, there are no friends.
No dances, no anything. Margot Robbie, again, looks ravishing and beautiful in all these expensive looking gowns. Even on the wedding day, there's this beautiful shot of her walking between the two houses with this veil trailing behind her like a jellyfish. But then a woman that's acting the way she did would not do that.
I do think because the soundtrack, there are selections from Charli XCX. From what everyone was saying and from the trailers, I thought this was going to be filled with Charli XCX, but
I thought she'd be more pervasive. I think the moments that she's used are effective.
But there is a song where she's talking about being a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me feel like I understand why it feels so sparse, because she would feel like, it almost feels like she's a caged bird. Like she's all dolled up with nothing to do and nowhere to go.
But do we know why she sings?
So it made sense to me that
it does, again.
Because she's always perched
yes.
with her bust out, looking beautiful, fully done up, and just there longing for this man.
The usual detractions that most adaptations of this novel face are that Heathcliff is not nearly as feral as he is in the book. And of course, I think we can talk about Emerald Fennell's decision to not make this character a person of color, which Heathcliff is. And the only person that did that was Andrea Arnold with James Howson. And I think that is what also helps make that a superior version.
To be fair, though, Jacob Elordi is like 3 shades darker than Margot Robbie because they paint her ghostly.
They do, but these are still two Australians, which is interesting because if you think back of the first major, I know there's a 20s version that's lost to time, but the first major film version is the Wyler one, right? With Merle Oberon and Laurence Olivier, who cast himself as Macbeth. Anyhow, it's strange. You don't know about Merle Oberon, but it's weird the kind of racial context going on that I think are baked into adaptations of Wuthering Heights, because Merle Oberon, her mother was from Sri Lanka, or what's now known as Sri Lanka, and she would never admit that she was biracial. She introduced people to her mother as the housemaid, and you have Merle Oberon playing Catherine. Merle Oberon would say that she was Australian. I don't know. There are just interesting coincidences with what Emerald Fennell is doing.
That didn't register to me as we were watching it because I didn't remember. Because the book says that he has tan skin.
Well,
right?
They call him a gypsy. But that also changes the dynamic by putting them more on equal footing. And I think makes Catherine's actions when it's another white person less disastrous.
I didn't feel like they were on equal footing because he can't read, and it's made clear that he is kind of beneath her.
Yes.
Even as adults, he's beneath her.
And they keep them that way. They also dispatch Catherine's brother, who is older than her and is quite abusive to Heathcliff in the book when Mr. Earnshaw dies. And it is responsible for putting him in the stables, etc. They get rid of him. And in fact, in this version, in Fennell's version, Cathy is the one who names him Heathcliff. And she says, after my dead brother.
Paring it down, I mean, maybe I'm just stupid, but paring it down felt more digestible. And I'm like anti-romantic. So for some reason, this really got to me. But let me get through my notes. Just basically for people who don't know the story of Wuthering Heights, Cathy, we see, is raised by Mr. Earnshaw, who in this movie is played by Martin Clune.
Who is one of my favorites. He has a fantastic scene.
Oh, well, yes. There's one in particular that's extra great, but I enjoyed him throughout.
Mm-hmm. Who, if you've never seen Doc Martin, highly recommend. Sigourney Weaver was a guest star on that series twice.
Mr. Earnshaw is this man with a lot of land, and he thinks money, who is raising his daughter, Cathy. It appears Cathy's about 10 when Mr. Earnshaw takes in some street boy and says he's going to raise him.
An urchin.
And that boy is ultimately named Heathcliff by Cathy in the movie. I know it's different in the book. But they grow up. Their financial situation becomes worse because Mr. Earnshaw is a drunk and likes to gamble. Mm-hmm. So the idea is like, what are they going to do? Because Heathcliff is uneducated and all Cathy is pretty and innocent. But it's clear they love each other. But it's unrequited It's an odd vibe because they were kind of raised as siblings.
Yes, there's a very Thornbirdy, incestuous inappropriateness going on.
But this bothers me less than Clueless with Alicia Silverstone and Paul Rudd.
Well, those two are this strange kind of traumas going on during their formative years. I mean, Flowers in the Attic, V.C. Andrews, these two people kind of locked up together and can only depend on each other for love and release.
It didn't bother me as much because Heathcliff, when they're younger, he expresses his affection for her. Mm-hmm. So it's like when they first meet very quickly, he understands his feelings towards her. He's very protective of her. He also sleeps like in the attic of the barn next to the house. So they're always together like bosom buddies.
He's characterized like a whipped dog that is rescued from the streets and is forever beholden to its new owner who sometimes gives out the love that it needs.
The scene that sent me, so earlier on, when they're younger, Cathy and Heathcliff, they go out to play and they get caught in the rain and they decide to stay undercover until the rain stops. But it rains all night, so they're late getting back home. And it happens to be the night of Mr. Earnshaw's birthday party. And he is mad.
Yes.
It's Cathy's fault. She's the one who said, no, let's wait. It was Heathcliff who's like, we need to get back home. But when it's clear that Mr. Earnshaw is mad at Cathy, Heathcliff takes all the blame. And Mr. Earnshaw beats Heathcliff so badly, he has scars on his back. Mm-hmm. That night, he tells Cathy, don't feel bad for me because I won't ever stop protecting you. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to cry right now. At the end of the movie, when he's holding her dead body, spoiler, Cathy dies, mm-hmm. we get a flashback to that moment. Mm-hmm. That sent me.
Wow, I feel so detached from Emerald Fennell's version.
I feel like Bob the drag queen crying over Kesha.
I felt nothing. I felt horribly for Heathcliff in this version because I really don't like Margot Robbie's Cathy. It's not that it's in her interpretation.
She didn't bother me. I feel like she's spoiled, delusional, like she grew up with this man who has delusions of grandeur, so she feels proper. She has a companion.
Yes, we need to talk about Nelly, because Nelly, like in the novel and other film versions, is one of the main, or if not the main narrator in film of the framed story that this usually is.
But getting back to the story, mm-hmm. they have this huge plot of land, and we see someone has bought a plot of land next to them, mm-hmm. which is like 5 miles away. And Cathy has all the details.
Somehow.
It's the Linton family.
He's in textiles.
He's made his fortune on textiles. Very, very rich. And she's obsessed with why haven't they come to meet us?
And that's kind of this light comedy tone I didn't like. She's like Barbie in the Barbie house there in that scene to me.
I liked it. But Cathy decides to go over there mm-hmm. So her companion Nelly, who's played by Chau as an adult, she's supposed to be like the prim and proper one. Her father was a lord, but she's a bastard child, and that's why Nelly works as a companion for Mr. Earnshaw's raggedy ass. Mm-hmm. But Nelly's very proper, and she tells Catherine, a woman like you wouldn't just go over there, like you need to be sent for. But Cathy's stubborn. She goes over there and is looking over the wall. Mm-hmm. And this is when we first meet Isabella, portrayed by
Alison Oliver, who you know from Saltburn. This film, in fact, feels like the prequel to The Family in Saltburn.
Sure. I love the character of Isabella in this movie. I thought she was so funny. We meet her telling her brother, Edgar Linton, the man of the house, she's trying to recap Romeo and Juliet to him. I thought that was so funny.
I don't know. She was it was so broad and stuck out so hard in comparison to the rest of the film.
But as she's recounting Romeo and Juliet to her brother, Margot Robbie's ass is looking over the fence and falls, mm-hmm. which startles Isabella. Edgar goes outside and sees Margot Robbie. So of course he's like, oh, wow, what can I do for you? And we find out that he has basically fallen instantly in love with her. This heifer had a sprained ankle, and she spent 6 weeks in this house recovering, living this lavish life.
And that's where Heathcliff first feels the blade of her abandonment. And then Elordi caught off of Frankenstein. It's like he's playing a similar character.
Yeah, actually. But when she returns, she's most excited to talk to Heathcliff. Mm-hmm. And Heathcliff is mad because he feels, like you said, abandoned. Mr. Linton, Edgar, asks Cathy to marry him, and she says yes. But then she realizes that no, she can't do that because she loves Heathcliff. But Nelly is a hater.
Nelly has changed considerably in this to being a jealous hater. Because if you think of Janet McTeer in the Binoche version, that scene plays much differently.
But I think Nelly grew to be a hater because before Heathcliff arrived, as like a 10 or 11-year-old, Cathy and Nelly were best of friends.
Well, Nelly's a hired companion for her in this film.
But once Heathcliff arrived, Cathy's attention focused on him.
Yes.
So I got the impression Nelly had developed sort of this animosity and jealousy towards Heathcliff.
Yeah, because in this version, Nelly is forced to live vicariously through Cathy. And once that's cut off, she's just this girl in a dress stuck in the kitchen with the maids who are shitty to her.
Also, Nelly wants to live in the lap of luxury. So if Cathy marries this wealthy man, Nelly gets to go over there.
Yes.
So Nelly sets it up so that Heathcliff hears part of their conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And the part he hears is Cathy saying, I can't marry him. That would be so degrading. Like, what are we going to do? Walk around and beg for shit? I'm marrying Edgar.
Mm-hmm.
Heathcliff hears that and runs away.
For 5 years.
The next morning, Cathy decides I made a mistake. I'm not going to marry Edgar. I want to be with Heathcliff. But that's when the stable guy and Nelly say, oh, you didn't hear? He's gone, like for good. She waits a year. She postpones the wedding for a year, hoping Heathcliff will come back. He doesn't. She gets married. Now her life is transformed as this rich wife, all the while longing for Heathcliff.
Mm-hmm.
When they were kids, Heathcliff did something to Cathy she didn't like, and she put a bunch of eggs in this bed. So now that she's an adult married to this rich man, one day she goes to bed and she sits on an egg. And we know that Heathcliff has returned.
Heathcliff's in town. The stray cat is back. And it's on the night that we learn her character is pregnant with Edgar's baby.
And before Heathcliff left, he looked like a brute. Long hair, beard, looked like he smelled, raggedy, tattered clothes, and he was missing a tooth. When he returns, he has a nice haircut, clean shaven, a gold tooth, fancy clothes. So clearly he does something, but it's all a mystery. We don't know.
And that is par for the course. It's always suggested that it's ill-gotten gains.
And Cathy does sort of say that when she's trying to be mean to him at a point. But he tells her, yeah, I'm back. And I bought Mr. Earnshaw's property, which is called Wuthering Heights.
Yes. Mine now. Drogheda.
And Drogheda. Another The Thornbirds reference. The minute Cathy sees Heathcliff, she starts sweating.
Mm-hmm.
They begin a sexual affair, of course in secret, but Nelly knows. So we get this sequence where they're just enjoying each other.
Their bodies.
On the DL.
Mm-hmm.
One day, Cathy and Heathcliff have a conversation and he tells her, well, you said that being with me would be degrading, so that's why I left. I thought you knew that. Well, how would I know that? Well, I mean, Nelly saw me there, so I assumed you saw me. And Cathy's like, what? She immediately, I really like this scene because the way it's shot, Cathy is standing there mad, looking at Nelly, and basically tells her, you're fired for treason.
Mm-hmm.
But Nelly's not stupid. She goes to the husband, and we don't see it, but Nelly told Edgar, your wife is having an affair with Heathcliff.
Yes, we don't see that, but Nelly gets to stay on. We don't even talk. Edgar, who is always kind of this limp dick character.
Bland, yeah.
I mean, he is across all the versions, even David Niven. But this is Shazad Latif in this version, and he really has nothing to do. I mean, and that would have been an interesting way for Emerald Fennell to do something different too.
That is something I thought is I would have liked for there to be a more extreme contrast, meaning Edgar was a very sensitive, attentive type, but Cathy is drawn to the brutish nature of Heathcliff.
I mean, yes, wouldn't it be interesting if we actually were led to feel something for Edgar being crushed underneath her selfishness?
Yeah, I will say I didn't necessarily feel bad for Edgar.
I don't feel bad for any of the people in this one, except for Heathcliff.
The opening of the film starts with off-screen sounds, and it sounds like moaning, like sexual moaning.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realize we're actually listening to a hanging in progress.
Yes, and the man gets an erection. From the opening moment, it seems like Emerald Fennell wants to return this to a state of vulgarity a bit, which is probably tracks when this was written in the 1840s. And then later on, Isabella talks at the dinner table about a woman about to be executed, and oh my, won't we be able to see up her dress?
That was a really good scene because it's well into Cathy's marriage to Edgar when one day Isabella's talking about going to a hanging and she's excited. But before she says who it is, you can see in Cathy's face that she thinks it's Heathcliff.
Mm-hmm.
And when she learns that it's a woman, I thought that was a really great scene.
Yes.
But getting back to the sex sounds, I was assuming that the film would be more sexual than it is.
I would too, because like early people calling this like a bodice ripper and it's so sensual. I don't know. Maybe it's just that I'm more of an adult.
This feels like 50 Shades of Grey to me. Like it's that level of, there's no nudity.
No, there's some masturbation and fluid tasting.
There's the erection scene from the hanging. There's Cathy masturbating with her hand, and we see that it's a little sticky, and Heathcliff licks her hand. And that's when she knows, like, oh, he wants to be my lover.
You know who we need to see a version of this from, who isn't afraid of sexuality and cruelty, is Catherine Breillat. She would have done a bang-up job of Wuthering Heights.
Actually, the most erotic or explicit scene involving sex is with the horse stable guy and one of the maids.
Yes, that's the kinkiest sex we see.
In fact, Cathy later on is trying to make Heathcliff feel bad by saying, my husband has sex with me.
He does things you never imagined.
Things you would never imagine, things that are more extreme than what we saw in the horse stable.
Which we know is not true, because we've seen Edgar hunched up on her in a montage.
We do see him hunched up on her. We get a montage of Cathy and Heathcliff interacting, but it's Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi, so of course it doesn't go too far. So that was one area. I didn't need more. I was just expecting more.
I don't need more. I just thought this film would feel less YA based on how it's marketed. Again, though, I did like the Charlie XCX element, even though that's also another level of anachronism here. But to me, Charlie XCX is bringing the most musicality to the Wuthering Heights pantheon since the Kate Bush hit from the late 70s.
Isabella is so cute to me. You know, she kind of reminds me of Jessie Buckley.
I was thinking that. And
that actor.
I don't remember, because she's also in the recent series Task. And I don't recall thinking that of that comparison before watching this, but yeah, I see it.
But Isabella's a little weirdo because she's obsessed with Cathy. As a wedding gift, she gives Cathy a doll she has made, and the doll has blonde hair, and it's Cathy's blonde hair. Isabella's like, yeah, I've been collecting hair from your brush. And we see Isabella has a huge dollhouse, bigger than some New York City apartments. And she puts Cathy's doll in the dollhouse next to herself, which comes back later because at a point, Isabella is mad at Cathy because Isabella likes Heathcliff.
She has designs on him.
And at first, there's a really good scene with Isabella pushing Cathy on a swing and telling her, like, God, Heathcliff is so beautiful. And Cathy's like, sure, girl, you think he wants you?
He'd eat you alive.
Isabella says, you're just a goddamn hater.
And that's true.
Cathy says, oh, okay, well, go on ahead. Go tell him you like him and see what happens. And then we get a scene where Cathy forces Isabella to interact with Heathcliff. And at this point, Cathy is trying to reject Heathcliff, she does.
She's such a goddamn gaslighter.
So what does Heathcliff do? My biggest complaint of Jacob Elordi in this film is he was very difficult to understand. There were no subtitles, and I feel like I only heard 50% of what he was saying.
Yeah, I agree.
I think his best scene is when he seduces Isabella.
It is.
He keeps saying things like, I'm going to be terrible to you, while he's undressing her. And he says, do you want me to stop now? No. All right, well, I'm going to treat you like shit. Do you want me to stop now? No. I'm only doing this to get back at Cathy. Do you want me to stop now? Like, he just goes on and on. I thought that was his best moment.
That's his best moment, but it's an interesting turn of events, I think, to have. Again, this is why this film version feels defanged by Ms. Fennell to me, because Isabella is complicit and consensual in her own degradation, which is fine, and that's an interesting element, but it's so superficial the way it is. Because when I think of the Geraldine Fitzgerald in the 39 version, like, it's kind of devastating what happens to her. She's a pawn in this really cruel game. I also kept thinking of that Jewel song, Foolish Games. Like, you people are tearing yourselves apart. And that's only interesting to watch so long.
I thought it made sense because the foolish games people play.
Yes, until you lose it all, including your life.
Right, but I think that's what this adaptation is showing. I think that's why Isabella is acting this way, because she's so desperate. How many people degrade themselves to be with someone who they are extremely attracted to? I mean, I feel like that's more common than the romantic fairy tale stories we see.
It is, but it doesn't feel like it's presented to me in a very adult way. It feels really silly.
When Isabella gets mad at Cathy, she takes that doll in the dollhouse and murders it. I thought that was funny. But before they fall out, Isabella makes a book of friendship for Cathy. That was creepy as hell.
It was creepy, but again, it's just not wonky enough. You know, a really interesting film version of this is Louis Buñuel did during his Mexican era. He adapted, and I think it's really well worth seeking out. Their names are changed now. I think instead of Heathcliff, it's Alejandro. But how Heathcliff in that version gets his ill-gotten gains is he sells his soul to the devil. I don't know. That is a superior version to me.
So how does the story end? Heathcliff marries Isabella, and she's very wealthy. And we understand that when she gets married, her fortune will be promised to her. But of course, Heathcliff is not worried about her money. He wants to drive Cathy mad because she won't be with him. And he's successful. The final act of the film is because Heathcliff can't write and Isabella's educated. And like you said, she's complicit. So she's writing these letters to Nelly, trying to convince Nelly to get Cathy to see Heathcliff. But of course, Nelly's intercepting them and disposing of them. At one point, Nelly shows up to Wuthering Heights and Heathcliff has Isabella chained up like a dog. That was kooky.
It's kooky, but then it's revealed that she's not chained to anything. It's all fake. It's role-playing.
Well, and that she likes to be degraded.
Yes.
While this is happening and Cathy is pregnant with Edgar's baby, she just starves herself, basically, and makes herself sick. And then we find out that her baby died at some point. Because I kept thinking, why is she not getting any bigger? And she tells Nelly, my baby died. But Nelly goes, well, you didn't bleed, so your baby's not dead. But the baby did, in fact, die. So she becomes septic.
And then the famous scene where Heathcliff says goodbye to her on her deathbed.
I thought that was beautifully shot. Before she dies, they have her propped up and they have leeches.
Oh yeah, that's another thing, that the room that Edgar Linton designs for her in his mansion is supposed to be basically like a living, breathing extension of her.
It's the color of her skin, and it's even painted to have her blood vessels and her little freckles.
So when she's being bled by the leeches as a last-ditch attempt to save her, there's an array of leeches also on the wall.
I thought that looked really cool. And then, of course, she bleeds out. We have Nelly going to tell Heathcliff. Of course, he's devastated. And then the final moment when he holds her and he remembers what he said about always protecting her.
And that's the first half of the book, which is sympathetic towards Heathcliff, because he does some nasty shit with the children later on.
Well, Heathcliff seems nasty in this movie. I don't think either of them, they're a match made in hell. So I don't think that this is a healthy relationship.
Oh, God, no.
I just think that it made me emotional seeing like how like the choices people make can hurt them. Playing games can hurt you. And then you end up alone. Like,
yes,
time is not forever.
That's right.
I'm not saying I connected to this story, but it just felt real.
It does. And to think that...
And modern in a way.
Emily Brontë was only 18 or 19. I mean, the Brontes are a whole nother interesting story with sisters Anne and Charlotte and that drunk brother they had living in that house where strange things purportedly were happening. You know, Isabelle Huppert played Anne Brontë opposite Isabelle Adjani and Marie-France Pizet in the 1979 film directed by André Téchiné. Oh, another shout out. Again, the Brontë sisters and their works are so pervasive to literature and film. I mean, internationally speaking. There's a Japanese version by Yoshisuke Yoshida from 1988. I mean, to me, all of that is fascinating. So Emerald Fennell's film is merely another pit stop in, I'm sure, what will be other adaptations of this novel. And to crib from a song by Foreigner, I mean, this version, it's hot-blooded, but come on, baby, can you do more than dance?
What would you give Wuthering Heights?
2.5. I
really like this movie. I would give it 4 out of 5.
Wow.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.